On the night of Saturday, January 6, 2007, Christopher Newsom and his girlfriend, Channon Christian, went out together for the last time. Newsom was a 23-year-old carpenter, Christian a 21-year-old senior majoring in sociology at the University of Tennessee. The couple had been dating for about 2 months and seemed very much smitten with each other. That Saturday night the couple had eaten a romantic dinner at Knoxville restaurant. Channon last spoke with her mother, Dina, at roughly 12:35 a.m. on Sunday, when Channon said the couple was going to visit a friend to watch some movies. No one ever heard from them again. At 12:24 p.m. Sunday, Christopher's burned corpse was found by a Norfolk Southern Railroad employee near the railroad tracks in a rough area on the north side of Knoxville, Tennessee. The next day, Shannon's Toyota 4Runner was located a few blocks away. It was actually found by Shannon's parents, who were canvassing the area after the cell phone company gave police the last known location of their daughter's cell phone. Channon was nowhere to be found, but crime scene technicians lifted a print from an envelope found in the SUV. Analysis matched the print to LaMarcus Davidson, a recently released ex-con living in the area. Knoxville Police and Knox County Sheriff's Department investigators got a search warrant for Davidson's home at 2316 Chipman Street. By Tuesday at 2 p.m., they located Channon Christian's body in a kitchen trash bin. The house was a rental property, but the renters were gone. Police were left with 2 corpses of a photogenic young couple who had been tortured and killed in the most brutal fashion anyone in Knoxville could remember. As information slowly emerged out of the investigation, it was clear this was no ordinary crime. It apparently started with a carjacking, said U.S. Marshal Rich Knighton. They did some really nasty things to this lady. There is some evidence she was held and sexually abused for a couple of days. In fact, as police gathered more facts, it became clear that both Newsom and Christian were brutalized beyond imagination. In the wee hours of that Sunday morning, Newsom and Christian were carjacked at gunpoint in her parents' 2005 Toyota 4Runner and brought back to the house on Chipman. Christopher Newsom was raped over and over again and sodomized with an unknown object. He was blindfolded, gagged, and bound at the hands and feet. After several nightmarish hours, Newsom was either walked barefoot or dragged out to the railroad tracks, where he was shot in the back of the head, execution style. The assailants shot him 2 more times, in the back and in the neck. Then Newsom's corpse was doused with gasoline and lit on fire. For Channon Christian, the torture was even worse. She suffered days of sexual abuse in the Chipman home. She was beaten mercilessly and raped numerous times, suffering excruciating injuries to her mouth, vagina, and anus. Forensic pathologists found that not only was Christian raped by her captors, but she had been penetrated with an object as well, possibly a chair leg, according to the Knox County Medical Examiner. In addition, examiners found that a chemical, likely bleach, had been poured down her throat and in her wounded genital areas while she was still alive. The coroner reported that Christian was then tied up with torn strips of bedding, her head covered in a white garbage bag. and then the whole body stuffed in 5 larger trash bags before being thrown into a garbage can. Perhaps the most horrifying finding was that she was still alive at the time. Her death came after the slow process of suffocation in the trash container. Police immediately began searching for the renter of 2316 Chipman Street, a convicted felon named LaMarcus Davidson. Davidson had recently finished a 5-year prison sentence for a previous carjacking and robbery charge. Law enforcement also sought Davidson's brother, Latalvis Cobbins. By Wednesday, January 11, 2007, authorities had arrested Davidson in Knoxville. Cobbins and his friend George Thomas were picked up by U.S. Marshals in Lebanon, Kentucky. Further investigation led to the arrest of Cobbins' girlfriend, Vanessa Coleman, who witnessed the kidnapped couple in the house on Chipman Street. On January 31, 2007, a grand jury handed down a 46-count indictment against the 4 defendants. The attackers would be tried separately, but the first person convicted in the case would be a man who had no contact with Newsom or Christian. Dwayne Boyd was convicted by a federal jury on April 16, 2008, as an accessory to the carjacking for his role in hiding Davidson in the days after the killings. He would be sentenced to 18 years in prison. On August 25, 2009, a Davidson County jury. There was too much media coverage to find an impartial jury in Knox County, so a jury was bussed in from Nashville and sequestered. Convicted 26-year-old Latalvis Cobbins of the first-degree murder and rape of Channon Christian. He was acquitted of the Newsom rape counts and convicted of a lesser facilitation charge in regard to Newsom's death. Prosecutors had called Cobbins the second in command during the crimes and had used forensic investigation to link Cobbins' DNA to the victim's remains. Cobbins took the stand in his own defense, telling jurors that he had consensual oral sex with Christian, offered with the promise that he would set her free afterward. But he conceded that he left her in captivity afterward, and admitted that he was present when Christian was stuffed in the garbage can and left to die. Jurors ultimately opted to spare Cobbins from the death penalty and instead found he should be sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The next defendant to stand trial was 28-year-old LaMarcus Davidson, the man who rented the house in which the crimes took place and who prosecutors said planned the rapes and murders. At trial, the state linked Davidson to a fingerprint in Christian's Toyota and to the gun believed to be the murder weapon in Newsom's murder. Davidson's DNA was found on Christian but not on Newsom. On October 28, 2009, Davidson was convicted on 35 of 38 total counts. He was not convicted of raping Newsom. Of the counts, they included the first-degree murders of both victims. The penalty phase started the next day. The jury was sent back to decide Davidson's fate on October 30, 2009. After approximately 3 hours of deliberation, the panel sentenced the ringleader to death by lethal injection. George Thomas, 26, was a friend of Latalvis Cobbins and the third man to be tried for the murder-rape of Christian and Newsom. Thomas's defense attorneys had the best shot at an acquittal thus far, as there was no DNA, fingerprint, or eyewitness evidence against their client. Thomas had admitted being in the Chipman Street house at the time, but denied taking part in any crimes against the couple. Regardless, the evidence was strong enough for a Hamilton County jury to hand down 38 guilty verdicts, including first-degree murder, rape, robbery, and kidnapping. The verdict came on December 8, 2009. 2 days later, that same jury recommended Thomas serve a sentence of life imprisonment with no chance of parole. The last trial would be the most difficult for prosecutors. 21-year-old Vanessa Coleman, LaTalvis Cobbin's girlfriend, admitted being at the house and witnessing the strangling of Channon Christian, but she said she was paralyzed by fear, that she had been threatened with harm if she tried to leave and alert authorities. Moreover, there was no forensic evidence linking her to either victim. On May 13, 2010, Coleman was acquitted of the first-degree murder of Christian and of all charges pertaining to Newsom. However, she was convicted of facilitation in the murder and rapes of Christian. On July 30, 2010, Judge Richard Baumgartner rejected the defense's plea for leniency and sentenced Coleman to 53 years behind bars. With the last of the trials done and the defendants behind bars for decades, the terrible story seemed to be over. But this case had been sensational from the start, and there would be more controversy to come.